Welcome to this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live, the show which ensures that you profit from your time spent here with experts, either through their insights, information, or simply learning from them. And today we have Scott Allan, evidential medium, author, TV personality, and podcast host. Welcome to the show, Scott.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Nice to be here.
You are welcome. Welcome to the show, Scott. Welcome to India in this online form. And I'm sure not just in India, but a lot of people across the globe will benefit from what we are going to talk right now. We will learn from you about understanding about science and messages from beyond. We learn all about this, but let's learn a bit about you at the moment, about your journey, so that people know who they are listening to.
Sure. So I was a funeral director for many, many years. I think almost 35 years, all said and done. And in the last 5 years, I started to notice that things were awry, and I felt things, I heard things, I sensed things around me, and it was frightening because I didn't know what I was dealing with, and I thought, well, maybe there's something wrong with me, as opposed to, I didn't jump just at this. I didn't even think this was an option, to be honest. But I got some help from some people who were also mediums and shamans, and even though it felt a little strange to me, it was not something I had any experience with. They're the ones that taught me or told me that this is what was happening, and I needed to prove it to myself. So I spent a few more years just getting with people to see what impressions I could pick up around them. And that's when I realized that this was really what this was, that mediumship did not look at all like I thought it would look. And so, here I am. And I know we're only on for, 15 or 20 minutes. So I'm giving you the abbreviated version of the story, but it was a lot longer and a lot more involved than that. But I now do this full time. I am on a television show. It's here in the States, but it's also in Ireland, called Dark Echoes Paranormal. I've written a book that just came out last month called In the Presence of Light, A Funeral Director's Journey from Mourning to Mediumship. I do private readings for people all over the world through Zoom. And I have a podcast called the Enlightened Life Podcast that comes out every Thursday. And and that's about it for me. And we could talk about, I'm happy to answer questions or whatever it is you think you might want to know.
Absolutely, absolutely, Scott. So I want to understand from you. You talked about 35 years as funeral director. 30 years, you did not hear or see anything. Last 5 years, what is it that you did differently? What is it that changed? Yes.
It's funny because I say I've seen a lot of dead people in my life, and not one of them talked to me until the very end of the process. And I didn't do anything different. I think that's what was so frightening. There was nothing new. There was nothing different. There was nothing I was looking for or hadn't asked for this. It just kind of happened. And that's, I think, what was so frightening. And so one day I built a new building from the ground up, and years ago there'd been a mansion there that had burned to the ground maybe 100 years earlier. And I was in my office and I could hear someone walking up the stairs, and when I looked, there was nobody there. So I went downstairs, and then I could hear them walking around upstairs, and I could feel, and that's a very difficult thing to explain to someone, but I could feel that there was something there. I knew, whether it was male or female. I could started to pick up scents like perfumes and colognes and flowers and all of these things that were not a part of where I was. I mean, it just wasn't a part of my reality. So it became a little disconcerting, to say the least. And then I would start to hear my name, like in the room, or sometimes they would just reach out to me if I got a recorder, just a little personal recorder. I could hear them talking to me, and so I started to record things, and I realized that people could also hear, like other people could also hear it. Friends of mine and people I worked with could hear it, and they said, "Well, what the heck is that?" I don't know. I was hoping somebody would tell me, and I never did figure it out. It took me years to figure all of this out and come to an understanding of what was happening.
What was happening?
It was an awakening to mediumship. I mean, that's all I can say. I wasn't thinking that that's what it was. It was an invitation to work with spirit and deliver messages from the other side. And this is, I was more of a skeptic, to be honest with you. I really was. This is not something that I ever saw coming or that I thought would be a part of my life in any way, shape, or form, which is why I think it took me so long to embrace it. But once I did, once I learned how to shut it down, everything stopped. The voices stopped, the feelings stopped, the noises stopped. Excuse me. And so once I learned how to control it, it became much more manageable. And all of those voices and all of those things that I was recording, other people could hear. So I knew it wasn't, a mental thing. I knew there was really something going on because other people could hear it. But then it stopped. And now I know how to turn it on and off. It's basically on when I'm working and it's off when I'm not. And they don't bother me anymore. It used to be pretty much 24/7. I would get messages around me. And I used to think that the place was haunted. And then it started to be that everywhere I went was haunted. Everywhere, people's houses. And people said to me one day, I don't think it's the place. I think it's you. I think you're bringing these spirits with you. That was not a comfort either, to be honest with you, that I had these things coming, following me around from building to building. So fortunately, all of that has come to an end, and now I just do what I need to do. I do this. This is what I do. I do it full time.
Absolutely, absolutely, Scott. So, in this whole world, not
Hmm.
a place is there where a death has not taken place. Either, mostly natural, but many a times unnatural
Hmm.
death also. Why do we call it haunted? Uh, and do you think all these spirits, they were looking for you to pass on some message? I want to understand, is it
Yeah.
that you as a medium, psychic medium, you reach out to them to to communicate with them so that they can communicate with their near and dear ones. But is it that these spirits are also as eager to communicate with their near and dear ones, and that is where you come into the picture?
Yeah. So let me make a distinction between spirits that are stuck and spirits that are not stuck. So spirits that are stuck, we call them ghosts. Those could be in buildings. They're stuck. They don't know that they've passed, or whatever the case may be with them. I generally don't have any kind of connection to them. They're very low vibration. The spirits that have crossed into the light and are connected to people that I'm sitting with are higher vibration. So those are the ones that I connect with, but I don't reach out to them. I think that's sort of a misnomer. They reach out to me. So someone will sit with me and they'll say, I want to talk to my grandmother, as an example. I can't guarantee that their grandmother is going to call. I don't have their phone number, but they can call me. Basically, that's sort of how I simplify it. I can't reach out to them. They have to reach out to me. And if they do, I can tune into, I say it's like turning the dial on a radio station that's 100 miles away and you're trying to get just the right frequency to hear. That's what this is like. I don't think we see 100% of what's there. So they do reach out to me. I do leave messages. And most often it's not world changing. It's not about the state of the world. It's more or less, let my son know I'm okay. Let my husband know I'm okay. That type of a thing. I'm here. I made it. And then they'll give a little evidence. It could be just, say hi to Bobby because his birthday is tomorrow. It might be, I know my mother and father just went and put a picture at the cemetery. Whatever it might be. These are the types of things that will come through in a reading that are, life changing. I know my sister just bought a new car and she's moving. It's because they want people to know that there is a continuity of consciousness that takes place. That once we cross, it's not the end. And that is the message. That is the healing that takes place. It's not this profound uh, message about world peace or anything. You just don't get that. That they're not connected with the world anymore. They're only connected with us as people.
Absolutely, absolutely. We'll come to the messages from the spirit part, but first, Scott, I want to understand for the audiences. You see, why do spirits choose you? Nowadays there are many mediums, so is it a there must be a problem of plenty for these spirits also to pick and choose, and
That's the question.
how do they decide as to who to pick? Is it pick, is it the closeness to the relation? Do you have relation quite closeness to those people they come to connect with? I want to understand the mind of a spirit here.
Yeah, I'd like to understand the mind of a spirit too. I have no idea why any of this happens, to be honest. But if I'm sitting with you, then it would be your people that come through, right? I mean, it's not going to be somebody else's people from somewhere else. So I think, and also they don't come through to me when I'm not sitting with you. So it's not like I'm going to leave here today and everybody in spirit that's connected to you is going to start talking to me. That just doesn't happen. It's a three-way conversation. And it's me, you, and them. So if one of us is missing, it doesn't happen, right? So it's always people that I'm connected with. Now, if I do a large stage presentation, which I do quite often, there may be 70 or 100 people in the room. I'm not going to get somebody for everybody. It's the person, it's almost what they say, survival of the fittest. It's the one that's got the loudest voice who gets in first, who gets closer to me. And personality plays a big part of it. There may be somebody in the audience who has a loved one who was shy, who didn't want to speak in front of people, who was quiet, who was religious and didn't believe in this. Whatever the case may be, they may not come through, or they may come through one-on-one. But when you're in a room of 70 or 100, if you can deliver 10 readings, that would be something.
Absolutely. So tell us a bit about this whole messages from the spirit. If spirits can communicate either through a medium and all, why is it that the relatives come to you? What is it that they want to know about themselves, about their grief, about their some people who have passed away from this world? What is it? How does it actually work on the ground, and how do you help them?
Yeah. So someone will make an appointment, they'll sit with me, and then I'll start getting impressions. And there's something called clairs, right? We call them clairs: clairvoyant, claircognizant, clairsentient, which is feeling, clairaudient, which is hearing, clairgustance, which is taste, and they all come together to deliver a message. I do not see them like I see you. I don't see them lined up across the room. We don't have a normal conversation. It's funny because I had a woman sit with me through Zoom, just like this. She was from India, actually. And I don't know who came through. It was a while ago. It could have been her grandmother or mother or whoever it was. And she says, how can you communicate with her? She didn't speak English. And I said, I don't speak English. I mean, that's just not how it is. It's memories, it's photos, it's thoughts, it's ideas and smells and tastes, and all of that comes together. So we don't speak English. It's a different language. It's more of a telepathy. And so when I sit with them, sometimes I will just get a feeling. Sometimes I'll see them. Sometimes I don't see them at all. Sometimes I'll just get a feeling that they're a female or they're a male or they're an older person or a younger person. It depends on what they want to show me. Sometimes I'll know they took responsibility for their passing. Sometimes they passed in a vehicle. It just depends on the situation. I don't know how it works. I just know that it happens. And I guess it's not really for me to understand, but I start to get all of these sensations. And sometimes it's like a memory that's not mine. So people will sit with me, and if they tell me something about who they want to connect with, it throws me off because I often cannot tell what I know from what the spirit is telling me. So I have to keep it really neutral. I can't know anything before I go in. This is why I don't read friends and family. It makes it very, very difficult to read friends and family. But I wish I could give you the concrete, this is how it works. All I can tell you is it really does work in terms of just getting these messages, and it's not a message like you and I talking. It's, hey, I'm okay. And when I channel it, it comes fast. I mean, it starts coming out really quickly. I'm okay. I'm fine. Tell my son happy birthday. oh my God, so and so's having a hip replacement. I want to talk about them. I mean, it'll go on and on and on. Oh, so and so lost her baby. The baby's here with me. These are the types of things people will say when they come through.
Right, right. They have their own encryption, looks like, and decrypt
Yeah.
them and understand it.
Yeah. It's like a game of charades, really, if you know what that is. It's trying to make sense of
Right.
what it looks like, sounds like, and feels like. Truly.
Absolutely. In terms of healing, Scott, who seeks healing? Is it the spirits because they are worried about their near and dear ones, or is it the real, people who are alive? They seek healing. Is it for both the sides? How do you look at it?
Well, I mean, I think when we talk about healing, we need to be careful, right? This is not a physical healing. This is not, they're not going to heal you from cancer or heal you from an illness. This is an emotional healing. And I think the emotional healing happens with the loved ones that are here because, when you lose someone, it's awful. And to get a message that is irrefutable, there is no way that anyone could know some of the things that they're saying. Nobody, nobody. Um, and for a loved one to get that message from them gives undeniable proof that there is something beyond this life. That is the healing. But there's a part of me that feels like spirit on the other side, once they cross, they become very much aware that everything they did had a ripple effect, whether it was good or bad. And sometimes they come through to say, I'm sorry I acted that way. I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry I didn't have the relationship I should have had with you. I'm sorry I drank too much. I'm sorry, whatever it is, because that's all they've got now. This is their work. I've had spirit come through and leave messages for people they weren't that close with because they knew that the person they were close with would not come in and set up a reading. They were skeptical or whatever. So it could be like, I had someone come in who was the son of a woman's coworker that she worked with. The woman was with me hoping to hear from one person, and her friend's son comes in to leave a message for her. And these are the kinds of things that are just, I don't know. It's just like, how would you know that? Where does that come from? They just find the way in. They just find the way in and leave a message.
Absolutely. So, does it mean that ghosts can seek revenge, but spirits look at much more, much more calibration of everything that they did or did not do in the real life?
Did you say, just so I understand, did you say ghosts seek revenge? Is that what you said?
Many a times we think that ghosts are there to take revenge. They don't like you. You did something wrong. Either in the movies, in the popular
Yeah,
culture.
movies
I just want.
maybe. That makes a good movie. That makes a great movie. In reality, I don't. Sometimes I've been in places that are haunted and they're not even, I think, aware. I feel it's like a recording on a loop. You might just hear footsteps, and every day you'll hear the footsteps go from this side of the room to that side of the room, and that's it. Very, very, very rare that anything in the spirit world will hurt you. It just can be frightening for people who live in a place like that. But I'm very skeptical anyway, but I don't get that revenge thing. I think people are just stuck, you know? And if you were a bad person in life, you're probably still, if you're stuck, you're probably still not a very nice person. So, you might get anger, you might get, you know, any of that kind of stuff coming through.
Right. In the spirit world, is there a time period through which you can communicate, and then that is just a waiting sort of a situation for them, and then they will pass on to another world? Have you ever felt like that, or is it forever?
That the spirit stay. You talking about the spirit? If they come back, you mean like reincarnation type of a thing?
No, suppose if someone has passed away
Yeah,
and someone close to them wants to connect with them, what is the time period that they should connect with them? Because
I understand.
spirits
I
have
understand.
also this destination. They cannot be just a spirit all throughout in the grand design of this
Right,
universe.
right. I think that honestly, um, I really think that spirit can communicate with us almost immediately. Immediately. I think we are the ones that block them, and maybe not intentionally, because I think intense grief can do that. All the conditions sort of have to be right. I've also had spirit come through after 70 or 80 years. I've had that happen as well. I had an older gentleman sit with me, and his friend from high school came through, and he had died maybe 70 years earlier. So I think, you know, I don't get anybody from the Victorian age, but there has to be a connection here. There has to be a connection to someone that's been gone that long. I think that's really it. And, you know, do they reincarnate? I'm starting to believe in that, really and truly. You know, Western culture doesn't necessarily, you know, Christian religion doesn't necessarily buy into it, but I'm starting to feel that maybe they're wrong, that it might actually be the case where they come through again. But is there something left? Is there a piece of their higher self, their soul still left behind that can, I don't know. I mean, you know, I question these things. I have no idea. Since I'm not there, and I, you know, I only get like a peek. I don't really get to, you know, I have to take the same journey as everybody else. So I don't have all the, if I had all the answers, that would be really amazing, but I don't have them at all. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. In Indian culture, in Indian traditions, this whole reincarnation is a very part of it. If you tell an Indian about reincarnation, means they will not even forget about surprise. They will consider it as very, very normal. And
Yeah.
people have their own reasons. Earlier on, people used to look at it differently. Now, more and more people are understanding our universe, the whole scheme of things differently, and everyone thinks differently. You said you have started to look at it from that point of view. Do you think, let me stretch this a bit, do you think all these people who reincarnate, they always reincarnate on Earth, or are there other universes or planets where they also go to?
That's a great question. And there are mediums that say that they also connect with spirits of people from other planets. That's not something that I subscribe. I mean, I don't do that. I have no idea, you know. I don't know. But I do think it's possible. I think we've all had multiple lives, because and again, you know, there's nothing to back this up. It's just the feeling that I get after doing this for many years. I feel like the spirit, the soul is constant. That is what's constant. It comes, it goes back, it comes, it goes back, it comes, it goes back. It's just it's like, what clothes are you going to wear today? You know, what will you put on when you leave your house? That's what it feels like to me. You know, what will you put on when you come back here? Are you going to be a male or a female, or a rich person or a poor person, or, you know, who knows? Are you going to be here for a year, or are you going to be here for 100 years? What lesson do you want to
Absolutely.
learn? Yeah.
Absolutely. You talk like Lord Krishna. Lord Krishna spoke the same thing in Mahabharata, that we this
Yeah.
human body is just like a fresh piece of cloth, and
Yeah.
then you take one and then you change to another. Spirit keeps, and your soul keeps on doing
Yeah.
that. There is so much to understand, but a lot of people, you see, are educated, and what I see is that the more educated people are, the more they are discovering these things for themselves.
I
Why do you think
agree.
it is them? And then their questions are also there. How do you deal with these things, with this curiosity as well as apprehension, or try what they let their scientific mind understand things from you? How do you deal with both these things, Scott?
Well, there are people who are highly evolved doctors, engineers, who shut this stuff off, because that's not what they're, even religious people, you know, whether you're Christian or whatever, they teach that this is not true, you know. And so there are people that just buy into it, they accept it as fact, and that's it. Um, I I I just have explored more and learned more, and I don't I always want to know more. I want to understand it more. I'm not afraid of it anymore. I'm not. I'm definitely not afraid of it. I did go to India. I was in India several years ago. I was in Bangalore. I'm not sure where you're, you know, what part of India you're in, but I did go to a lot of the temples and spend some time traveling around. And I don't know. I don't know that necessarily had a profound effect in terms of what I believe, but you start to understand that you're not alone in what you believe. And I think that's important. It's not this far-fetched idea that you can come back, or that there is a continuity of consciousness beyond this world. I know people that believe in nothing, and what a dismal thought that is, because we've all lost people we love. Is this really it? This is as good as it gets, because it's not that great sometimes. I mean, it's life is life, right? We have our problems. So I really believe that I will even be surprised someday when I realize the reality of what it is. I don't get a picture of that reality.
Absolutely, absolutely. We will have to discover these things in our own way, because you see, many a times, as they say, horses, dogs, they can see things because
It's
they have got special thing where we cannot, and
Well, they
they
don't have
can.
judgment. They don't have judgment.
Absolutely. And you see, you say that we are not alone. You talk about Earth, you talk about like, it's the same thing that scientists say about the universe. We are not alone. That there might be other people in some
Right.
other corner of another
Right.
universe, perhaps. There is so much to learn from you, Scott, about all these things, from you, from your book, from your podcast, the Enlightened Life Podcast, so many things. What is the best way to connect with you, learn more about you, about your podcast, about your book?
My website is the place to go for everything. It's mediumscottallan.com, ALLAN. You can schedule a reading with me. You can see my podcast and get connected with that. You can get my book, or find out where you can get my book. Where is it? There it is. It's on Amazon and every other place that you can get books. But that's it. And everything's there. So everything about me, my history, and everything, it's all right there.
Absolutely, absolutely. With this, it's a wrap on this very special edition of the KJ Masterclass Live. Thank you so much indeed for
Thank
joining
you.
us.